Yeah, it's almost here, and it's coming. It's already coming fast and furious. Just moments ago, the Rams and Cam Curl have agreed to a 3-year, $36 million deal, so he'll stay with the Rams. So there's your safety market. I don't think that Reed Blankenship will reach that level.
Me neither. Right. I actually
A
think
little,
that
little bit
3 years,
under.
12 a pop. Cam's a better player than Reed, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Certainly coming off last season. So 3 years, 36 million. Tyler Biadasz also signed with the Chargers over the Bears. He went to visit the Bears, then he went to visit the Chargers. Signed with the Chargers. I think he got 10 million a year. And then Daniil Hunter keeps moving. It's like a cyborg, I was saying before the show went on the air.
Yeah.
$40 million, getting the extra year tacked on at his age. That's sort of how they do it now. 30, I believe, 30 over 30, fully guaranteed. So, yeah, stuff is happening.
No doubt about it. Some big moves happening there. John, can you explain this to me real quick? Just for the people listening, I got this question yesterday, and I figured I'd open it up for you to explain. With free agency starting next week, what does it mean when a player like Tyler Biadasz, or however you say his name, Biadasz, he signs early? Like someone said to me, I thought free agency was next week. How can he sign with a new team now? I'm like, I'll ask John that on the show tomorrow and get his explanation for how that happens. Explain that, John, because I do think it confuses people when they hear, well, free agency is next week, and then you have a free agent signing with the team. How's that work?
Yeah, he got released. So anybody who gets released, they're free game right away.
Okay.
Whereas everybody who's an unrestricted free agent, they have an expiring contract on Wednesday, Tuesday, really. So you have to wait till then till officially make the deal. So anybody like Jaelan Phillips, his contract doesn't expire. So that's why he can't sign early. Tyler Biadasz was released, surprisingly so, by the Commanders. Didn't necessarily get that one. So he's free to sign anywhere. And he did early. Sometimes you do it if you're going to move on from a veteran player. Sometimes you just do it as a favor to give him a head start on the market. Not sure if that's what happened there, but he had a lot of interest. Chicago was trying to get on him right away because Drew Dahlman retired.
Yeah.
And
that's a big hit for Chicago, Drew Dahlman retiring. He really had a good year.
Yeah. Well, you look in the same division, the lines weren't the same without Frank Ragnow.
Yep.
And they have a veteran quarterback who understands protections and all that kind of stuff, where Caleb Williams, a lot of great stuff last year for Caleb Williams, but he's still an emerging young quarterback who needs help. And now you don't have a big time center. Yeah, that's one to keep an eye on, because the Bears, and you can say bring in a rookie, but then you have a young quarterback with a rookie center. That's not going to be Drew Dahlman or Frank Ragnow.
Right. I wonder if the Bears will try and make a big move for Linderbaum.
Possibly. Yeah. A lot of people are in that conversation, Linderbaum. So
yeah, I would imagine that he was a good player. I'm surprised the Ravens didn't re-sign him. John, as you mentioned at the start of the show, fast and furious here. So we had two deals right as we started here with Cam Curl and Daniil Hunter, who came, I think, late last night. The Daniil Hunter move hit the 1-year extension. Those are very relevant to the Eagles, obviously, because of Reed Blankenship, who's a safety, and Jaelan Phillips, who's an edge rusher. Also very relevant, J-Mac. How about Lane Johnson tweeting out a little eye emoji for Maxx Crosby, putting that on the radar? And then also the DJ Moore trade, I think, has great relevance to the Eagles, just in terms of, the A.J. Brown asking price and the trade saga there. Let's start with Lane Johnson, John. Could Maxx Crosby end up a Philadelphia Eagle, J-Mac?
Well, anything's possible, obviously. The Eagles are going to have to do some things to get it done. I mean, not only from the standpoint of giving up assets. Obviously, you've heard what the Raiders are asking for him, like a Parsons like deal. I don't think they're going to get that, but I do know Dallas is heavily in on it, and they kind of balked at that. So you might have this arms race between the Cowboys and the Eagles going on. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know what to tell you about it. Like, I hate when players do that. Yeah, it's like what are you trying to do? But
Well, social media recruiting. I don't know, John. I'll say this, and maybe I'm a tinfoil hat guy sometimes, which I
what are
will.
you doing? But you know what?
I don't get the timing.
What are you
Like,
doing with
isn't the
what
team
does that mean?
negotiating?
What does that mean to Jaelan Phillips? Your teammate?
That's where exactly where I was going.
Yeah. So I don't like it, but whatever. It's part of the world, the new age. I'm sure the Eagles don't like it. If they are trying to get him, they don't want it out there because they don't want, then if they're trying to get him, I've said, reported they budgeted heavy for that position. Maybe that's what was being alluded to, but you don't want that out there because what if you don't get it done and then you got to go back to Jaelan Phillips? It just doesn't help. So from that standpoint, I'm sure the Eagles wish it would go away. Certainly from a reporter standpoint, when Lane does that, it's great because people get interested and all that kind of stuff. But look, they would have to create cap space. They would have to obviously send significant draft capital, maybe a 1 plus a 2, who knows, maybe a player, who knows how high it goes. And maybe they're willing to do that. I've never gotten that feeling. Like I knew they were willing to do that with Micah. I knew they were willing to do that with Myles, something like that. Maybe he's in that same category.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten that same feeling from them, but that, like I've said in the past, they don't play the Raiders much. The Raiders haven't been very good for a long time. They're not that relevant in the league, so there's no reason to talk about them, or there hasn't been any reason to talk about them. And the other part is, the Raiders are now loaded with ex-Eagles executives. So I think that plays into it as well because, John Spytek, the GM, worked under Howie. It was a long time ago, but still, was talking about him at the combine and what he means to him. Brandon Hunt just left. Anthony Patch just left the Eagles to go there last year. So a lot of familiarity, trust. So maybe that plays into it. But they're going to have to move around some things if they trade for Maxx Crosby.
And what do you think they would have to move if they did it? I mean, how about this? AJ Brown and a 3 for Max. Does that get it? That doesn't get it done, does it?
No. Well, remember, remember where they are.
Well, they're drafting a rookie quarterback. I mean, hey, what better way to help Fernando Mendoza than AJ Brown?
Yeah, well, that's true. But is AJ happy with that situation?
How much more can we placate to AJ Brown's feelings and emotions? I mean, we're running a football team here, John. I don't give a shit if AJ Brown's happy about it.
That's fair. I mean, if you just want to go, but I don't know if the Raiders are in the position to do that. I think they understand what it means to have. And again, it works both ways with that familiarity. So Brandon Hunt knows what was going on here. Anthony Patch knows what's going on here. They probably know, look, AJ's not going to be that happy as he continues to struggle.
Yeah, that's true.
And nothing against Mendoza, but all rookie quarterbacks tend to struggle. So yeah, I don't know. I think they want draft capital and significant draft capital.
And I don't know. That's heavy to do. What do you think it would realistically take? Because the Raiders can live in La La Land all they want, and they can set their bar because it's part of negotiating. That's how you go, right? You start high, but Maxx Crosby is not worth what Micah Parsons was traded for. And I
agree.
I mean, Micah Parsons is younger. He's better. He's more productive. Come on. I don't think that's in the same arena, but I do think Max is a damn good player. So where do you think the truth lies on what it would take to get Maxx Crosby?
Well, I think definitely you got to give up your one. And remember, the Eagles, despite what people think, the Eagles are a good team. So they're starting at 23. They're not starting at 13. So it's not as valuable as a top tier pick. So I think you start with a one and a two, or at least a one and a conditional two.
Got to go
You know,
future
a
too,
three
right?
that can,
You
a
don't want to have
three,
yeah.
a three that can become a two, something like that.
Future though, right? Not this year. I mean, you can't. They're not going to give
Well,
up
you
both.
can't do the conditions this year. So yeah, it would have to be
Yeah.
future. But yeah, I mean, and maybe a player, maybe a throw in a player, a lesser player, maybe a
Nolan.
Sidney Brown type. Well, if you want to go, I don't know if you'd have to go as heavy as Nolan Smith if you're giving away a first round pick. I would hope, but you know they are asking for pie in the sky. Look, the Nolan Smith stuff, I don't think is relevant. Like the Eagles want him for this year. Then down the road, they got to make it difficult.
Yeah, but if he's what you need to get the deal done, if they did want Maxx Crosby, I don't even know if they do, but if they did, if they
Yeah,
were,
I mean, I mean, yeah, if it were, boy, I just don't, I don't, I'm not, I don't,
you're not sold on the Maxx Crosby
no,
move at
no,
all. Yeah,
I don't like the fit. I don't like how much he's played. I say the tread off the tire. The guy never leaves the field. He's been playing for a bad football team.
Isn't
Like,
that also a feather in the cap though? You know, I mean, look, you're thinking of paying Jaelan Phillips 25, 26 million, and he's got two, season-ending injuries. Max really doesn't get hurt much. It doesn't miss a lot of football games. Has played a lot, to your point, but he's uber productive. You know, the injury concerns don't really exist all that much. I get it, the tread, but there's more than one ways to look at that, right? You know,
well,
so
I think it's good when you have the guy and you say, "Wow, look at this guy," and I think it's bad when you project the guy down the road.
it makes sense.
I mean, I'm projecting down the road. Like there was already, a pretty significant drop off last year, at least from his typical standards. And I'm not talking about numbers; I'm talking about film. Um, so is that just frustration, like we talk about AJ here? But maybe crappy team, awful situation, maybe, and maybe he's reinvigorated with a contender. Um, But I'm not giving away I'm not giving away all that for Maxx Crosby. I'm just not. Micah, yeah.
Well, how much does the Jaelan Phillips deal change after that Daniil Hunter? I don't think too much because I do think they're different,
He's
but it's an
getting,
edge rusher, you know.
he's getting above Spotrac numbers. Spot rack.
Yeah, that's Spotrac. I wonder. Yeah, I'd like to
Spot
check.
rack.
Track.
I think it's Spot rack, but I don't know.
I don't know what the heck it is. I say a different name every
Yeah,
time.
so do I. So do I.
I'm going to check that.
He's
Did they
getting
update
higher
that
than
thing, man? 'Cause that thing
I don't know. 17.9 million.
Yeah,
He's
let me
getting
get it.
higher than I'm going over. I'm going over.
Yeah, you said that early. That's true. He's gonna be way over that.
Yeah. But just from like what people talking about AJ and trading and getting traded and DJ Moore getting the second round pick, which helped out the Eagles if they want to trade him. Which this is the dumbest conversation. I'm sorry, Howie. This is a dumb conversation. We don't want to trade him, but we're going to listen to every call under the sun.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, that's why I liked what you said yesterday. I mean, you actually, in a way, it was kind of a report where you're like, that's not really what's happening, and they're really listening to offers. That's different than the normal posturing of, well, we take every call. I'm a GM. That's the job we do. No, you're shopping them.
Well, and I don't even know if shopping is the right way, but you're considering trading him,
right?
Is what I would say. And maybe it doesn't work because and that's the DJ Moore trade's only going to embolden Howie. You get a second round pick for DJ Moore.
Yeah, we're gonna get there in a second.
Yeah, but that's a shit show from Brandon Beane, who should have been fired once before Sean McDermott was fired. Yeah. I mean that has been a freaking disaster, and now he's giving away second round picks for a descending receiver. because they, DJ was good. DJ's a Philly guy. He's been a good player for a long time, but let's be honest, he fell behind Luther Burden in Chicago.
Yeah.
A rookie receiver. And he was going to be the third receiver there, and they can't pay him wide receiver one money, obviously. So what is Chicago going to do? Hold on to him? I don't think so. And they're getting, boy, Brandon Beane is having a bad offseason.
That was a bad deal. But wait, real quick before we get to that, because we're going there, because there's obviously big relevance to that with A.J. Brown and the trade market for wide receivers. We're going to get there in a second. Sticking on Maxx and Jaelan Phillips. John, I know you're out on Maxx, but let me frame it to you like this.
Not out.
No, I get it. It feels rich to you for what you're getting back, and when you have Jaelan Phillips. Well, this is how I would view it if you're Howie, I guess. If Jaelan Phillips is going to get $26, $27 million, which is starting to look more and more and more likely, if he's going to get $27 million. Do you want to just pay the premium to go and get Crosby? I mean, that's rich for Jaelan. I like Jaelan.
Yeah, but just think about what that premium is. Like, Howie kind of shook off the third round pick because obviously he's trying to, downplay it. But they already gave up a third round pick to get Jaelan Phillips to begin with. So now on top of it, let's say one in a conditional 3, just for argument's sake. You're giving away your first round pick this year, maybe a second round pick in 2027, and a player like Nolan Smith. What the fuck? Would I rather have Jaelan Phillips at 27? And oh, by the way, Maxx Crosby makes $35.5 million and probably will want more because Danielle Hunter just got 40.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, no, yeah. Will I pay that premium for Myles Garrett? Yes. Will I pay that premium for Micah Parsons? Yes. Will I pay that premium? That's where I draw. That's my demarcation. That's it. That's those two. And yet Trey Hendrickson, no. I'm not picking. Maxx Crosby is a very good player. I'm not picking on him. No, I'm not doing it. Danielle Hunter, no. Too old. Maybe Will Anderson.
Maybe. There you go. I like Will Anderson. I'm happy you said him. But no, I agree with you. I mean, well, where are you then on Phillips? I mean, are you almost getting to a point if it doesn't matter what Phillips gets to, you got to get the deal done?
That's a more interesting question because the idea of a walkaway number, it's like if your walkaway number is 28, well, what the fuck is the difference between 28 and 29? So this mentality, and the Eagles have these walkaway numbers, and everybody does. It's not just the Eagles. That I kind of push back on. I'm like, well, if the market says, if your walkaway number is 28 and the market says 29, you're really going to walk away from that guy? I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, if your walkaway number is 20, and which I don't know for a fact, but I'm thinking it was in that range for Milton. It might have even been a little bit lower, and he gets 26. Then it's way out of whack. You got to go. Obviously, you got to walk. You got to walk away. But yeah, I kind of push back more on the walkaway numbers than, well, if we're paying this guy 28, why can't we pay this guy 35.5, plus also waste a third round pick, plus also waste a first round pick, plus also give them Nolan Smith, plus also give them a conditional premium pick the next year.
Yeah, but John, here, let me give you the other. All right, let me say this, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but Howie's a smart guy. At least I view him as a smart guy. He's smart enough. No, I'm not saying he is perfect, but I'm saying he's smart. And he's smart enough to look at the team right now and know that we're not indestructible. Our Super Bowl window doesn't stay open forever. Our running back, we maybe have 1 or 2 years left with him. If we keep A.J. Brown, we maybe have 1 or 2 years left with him. Vic Fangio, we have maybe 1 year left, maybe 2 if you're really lucky. Same thing with Lane Johnson. Jalen Hurts is at 28 years old. What type of window do you have with him as a dual threat quarterback? I mean, your offensive line looks like they're 35 and half of them are 27. I think Howie's looking at the team and says, if we want to go and compete for a Super Bowl this year, I'm going to have to make a significant move to prop that window open. Now, if he thinks the window's already shut or some of those guys can't be fixed or the offensive line or any of those things, well, then maybe he lets it shut. But if you're Howie and you think that window's expiring or closing or getting smaller, don't you think making the splash is the right move to try and prop it back open?
Well, everything's about evaluation. So if they make that type of move, what they're telling you is Maxx Crosby is that type of player. I don't have the same evaluation. So they could be right. You know, I could be wrong. You know, but it better work for all that. And you know, the positive, you know, if you want to say the positive, he is out there every play. He has been durable. You know, he has been productive with no help, basically, and now he's going to have a shitload of help. So in theory, that would make him even better. So there's some avenues where you could say, you know, for all those people who say I never say I'm wrong all the time. They might be right and I might be wrong. I'm saying, me personally, I don't look at him the same way I look at Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett and Will Anderson. Those are the 3 guys. Everybody else, and it's not an insult, Aiden Hutchinson, Hunter, you know, Dre Hendrickson, how productive has that guy been? Everybody else, even Jared Verse, a young player, he's great, but he's not those guys. Everybody else doesn't reach that bar for me. So if you start talking about Micah Parsons level get back, which again, I don't think they'll get that from anybody, but if that's what we're talking about, yeah, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. But that doesn't mean the Eagles are wrong for going there if they want to go there. You know, and maybe playing with Jalen Carter helps him and makes him a better player.
Yeah, I think that would be true. I think it would be a 2-way street too. I think it'd help Jalen and Jordan.
So, you know, there's ways to evaluate it in a positive way. But it's a big matzo ball out there.
Do you think Vic Fangio would like Maxx Crosby?
Well, that's another thing. You know, it doesn't seem like a fit, but you know, when we all talk about Vic wanting the more well-rounded edge player, you know, he has worked with pass rushers before, and they've been tremendously successful. So he'll utilize what he has.
Is Matt's that one trick? I mean, John, I haven't watched enough of
Well,
Raiders.
I'm not saying he's one trick. He's a good player. He's got a shitload of tackles for loss, but he's not. He's not. He's his. You know, obviously his strength is he's a natural pass rusher. That's his strength. He's a pass rusher. And he's a closer. And he's the guy on 3rd and 10 that's going to get home. That's him. You're not looking at him to be the well-rounded 3-down guys who people are bored by anyway. So, you know, I when we were talking about AJ yesterday, I'm like, you know, my comparison is everybody loves the home run hitter in baseball, obviously. They don't like the 5-tool guy. Luckily, you know, and to be fair, the home run hitter is usually more relevant. You know, and like he gets a bunch of tackles for losses. So, those are splashy plays, just like sacks. But so if you compare it back to the glory days of the Phillies, Ryan Howard was the MVP and the home run hitter, and the guy.
Jimmy Rollins is probably your 5 tool.
Yeah, or Chase
Or
Utley.
Chase. Yep, Chase would be good too.
Are they better all around players? Yes, they are. But who's more important? And that's what Maxx does. Maxx is a sack guy. He's a tackle for loss guy, and that's going to get you paid $35.5 million, and that's going to stand out in the fans' eye. I just but people say that about Micah though. Oh, he can't play the run. Yes, he can. So can Maxx, but it's not what they're out there for. So, they're focused on what they're out there for.
Reminds me of AJ Brown blocking.
And, ironically, his if you use PFF, his run defense grade was better than his pass rush grade last year. Now, that was last year when he, wasn't at his height. His height was 2021, 2022, 2023, where he was second of 110, fourth of 119, fourth of 112. 3 phenomenal seasons in a row. But already you've seen a little bit of drop off. And my assertion there is, well, he plays 1,000 fucking snaps a season. So yeah, he's going to wear it down.
And he's 7 years. I mean, it's not, he's still. I think your point is good about how many snaps he's played, but he's not 30. Yeah, I think he's 28, right? He'll be 29, I think, this summer.
Well, that's a rotational position. Like for everybody in this league, except Max. I'm exaggerating a little bit. But that's a rotational position. So the only guys and Maxx missed a couple games. So Maxx was how many games did he play last year?
Last year he played 15.
He played 15. So he missed 2 games, and he was 4th. He was 935. So if 60 snaps a game, he'd be number 1. Number 1 was Jared Verse. He's very young, 1,026. He would have been number 1 again if he played all 17 games. But there's very few guys who play that much. Hutchinson does. Ironically, Byron Young does, because both of the Rams edge defenders, and that's something to keep an eye on, but they're both young. Josh Hines Allen was over 900 in Jacksonville. Montez Sweat was right at 900. That's it. 6 guys in the entire league. 6 guys. And he's been doing it for 5-6 years.
Yeah. It's one of those things that can catch you too, catch you quick. And I think, is part of your thought process on this slanted to some extent because of Jalen Carter?
Yeah, I just came off of with Jalen Carter and what it did to him. Will Anderson's a guy, maybe the best edge player in football last year, but besides Myles. 779, but there's a big difference between 779 and 1,000 every year. You just, and I say it with Vic all the time, Vic doesn't do a lot of stuff wrong, but I think he's got to be more disciplined with Jalen Carter's reps, and take him off the field a little bit more to preserve him. But we went through this for years with Fletcher Cox. I say it all the time. Every year, Jim Schwartz would say, we gotta be more cognizant of giving him a breather here and there. And then you get in a game and you're trying to win a game and you don't want to take Fletcher Cox off the field.
Right.
So it's not easy, but I don't know. It's something that concerns me. Obviously, it doesn't concern a lot of people. But and Jaelan Phillips played a lot. Jaelan Phillips was right behind Montez Sweat, 871.
A lot of snaps for Jaelan Phillips. John, two last questions here on this. For the Crosby move, I know it's rich for you, which I think you've explained your point well here on Birds 365. If the Eagles did make the move, realistically, what do you think that deal would look like? Give us your projected trade for what it would look like if the Eagles made the move.
23 overall this year. Conditional 3 that can become a 2 next year. That'll probably hit, so it will become a 2 because it'll be tied to playing time or sacks.
Right.
And then you try to get away with a lesser player, but you might have to give up. And in that case, it's good you brought up Nolan Smith because you probably have to give up Jalen Hunt or Nolan Smith. I think if the Raiders are smart and they know the Eagles, I think they'll push for Jalen Hunt.
No, I'm not giving up Jalen Hunt.
So it's going to take a lot, and that's I focused on how much he plays, which is a concern, but much more of a concern is again, you're giving up. You already gave up a 3rd-round pick to get Jaelan Phillips, and no matter what Howie says, and we know what he said. And now you're giving up a 1, a probable 2, and a potential big-time player as well. Yeah, I'm not going near that. Plus, he's getting $10 million more and will probably want more. I'm not going near that.
Yeah, well, we will see. All right, John, and my last question here on this topic, just for now, we'll probably revisit it a little bit later in the show where it will come back up, I'm sure. How has this changed or altered all this talk on edges, Danielle Hunter getting 40, all the movement on edges, and really the limited options available to teams that need edge rushers? Has this moved what the walkaway number is for Jaelan Phillips in your eyes? I know you can't speak for what it is for the Eagles. How could you know that? But what would it be for you? I mean, early in the summer, I think you were, or earlier in the offseason, I think you were more, 24, 25-ish. I don't want to speak for you. Somewhere in that range.
I'm still kicking it. I'm still keeping it at 25 because, I don't think there's that big of a difference between Jaelan Phillips and Maxx Crosby. And I don't think there's that big of a difference between guys like Kwity Paye and Adofi Owad than Jaelan Phillips. So if I can go a little bit cheaper and get one of those guys. Now, I know the Chargers are hell-bent on keeping the Penn State kid. So, he might not even be there when free agency starts. So, you have to have all these ducks lined up, and obviously Howie knows where he is. But I'm not going above 25 because I think you can get production in a different way. But I'm certainly, to me, if the Eagles pull off a trade for Maxx Crosby, it's telling you that he's a legit superstar. Like he's a legit superstar in the same category as Mike and Myles. And I don't believe that. So that's the only reason I'm out. If he's that type of player, if they're right on the evaluation, yeah, do whatever you have to do.
You told me I got Myles. I got a tick down, and I got Micah. I got another tick down, and I got Crosby and maybe Will. I think Will Anderson's probably in between Micah and Max, and then I got everybody else.
Yeah, I'm Will's 3 for me.
He is really turning into a freaking beast, that guy, yeah. Will Anderson.
And then, I think it's everybody else. I think Crosby's in the same conversation as Hutchinson, is very good. All these people are very good. Hunter, who's just got $40 million. Verse, who I think is awesome. So I think he's right in that category. Hendrickson, if he's still healthy, but who knows where Hendrickson. But previous Trey Hendrickson, he's right in that category, which is tremendously good. but it's not the top 3, in my opinion.
Fair enough. We will see what ends up happening with Jaelan Phillips, with Maxx Crosby. Lane Johnson stirred the pot yesterday with a little tweet adding Maxx Crosby, put the little eye emojis. Everybody's all riled up. How many views did that tweet get? John, I was wondering, did the Eagles put him up to this, John? I mean, right before, as they're negotiating with Jaelan Phillips, your captain and your longtime future Hall of Fame Eagle is tweeting at Maxx Crosby. Is that posturing for Jaelan Phillips? Is it giving him leverage? What is going on here? 3.6 million views on the Lane Johnson tweet to Maxx Crosby.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good strategy if if you're about to pull it off, because there was a lot of buzz going around that something might happen soon with Max. And maybe that's why Lane did it. I don't know, but I don't think it helps the Eagles unless they were unless the deal was done. And he's saying, googly eyes, watch what's going to happen. Otherwise, I don't think it helps.
Yeah, well, we'll see what ends up happening.